We've previously discussed how to learn a fighting game by combining your own experience with match footage of top players. A similar concept involves character specifics versus universal knowledge. You can explore a specific move of your character and learn where it does and does not work through trial and error. But sometimes, it's better to try to understand the game as a whole first, making it much easier to understand the role of each individual move. Let's use Grand Blue Fantasy Versus as an example of how to learn a new character by applying universal fighting game knowledge and general info about the game systems. First, let's extract as much info as possible by applying universal 2D fighting game guidelines. We can divide most possible situations we'll encounter in a match into 4 groups: ground versus ground, air versus air, ground versus air, air versus ground. We want to figure out which button to press in each situation. Going with ground to ground first, for each possible distance from the opponent, let's try to find the fastest move that can reach across the distance. Luckily, Dustloop's Grand Blue vs. Wiki has each move's startup frames and saves us the time figuring out startup speeds. The fast moves at closer ranges will be our go-to choices to fend off the opponent's offensive pressure, and the fast moves at farther ranges will be our go-to choices for poking and controlling space in front. Also, after each of these normals, what are the cancel options? Do these options combo on hit? Are these options safe on block? Are they hit confirmable on reaction? Are they airtight, or do they give the opponent time to act in between? Once we figure that out, we will be able to apply effective poking and frame punishment. Next is ground to air. Ground normals are air unblockable. For specials, it depends on the move and what version you use. Besides speed, range, and what happens on hit or block, we also care about the angle each move covers. Many new players have trouble responding to the right angle with the right anti-air because they wait to see the actual jump occur and only then try to recognize the angle and decide what to do, all within a single second. A good way to remedy this is to keep in mind, at every ground versus ground range, which anti-air should be used at the angle that a jump from that distance would create were a jump to occur. This way, you already have the proper anti-air loaded in your mind so you can respond faster. Don't forget that rising air attacks can also be considered anti-airs, with backward, neutral, or forward jumping providing different possible versions which lead to different results. A rising air throw is also an option to consider when the opponent is planning to do a late jump in. When it comes to air to ground and air to air, the speed, range, and angle are obviously important, but so are the active frames and the amount of block stun and hit stun. More active frames make an aerial move better at controlling space, as you don't need to guess as accurately where the opponent might be when you use it. More block stun and hit stun means that as an air to ground, you can start using the move higher than usual to beat some anti-air options, without sacrificing the momentum should your move connect. If your character has an aerial move that can cross up, that's always a great tool, as not many anti-airs can beat cross-up angles. Now let's round out our defense by finding out which moves have invincibility frames, and if this invincibility occurs from the first frame. As for offense, we should search for mix-up tools. Usually it's a throw mixed with a hit, or an overhead mixed with a low. We should also search for moves that provide frame advantage on block, besides jump-ins of course, and can scare the opponent from attacking, giving enough time to apply the aforementioned mix-ups. So now that we did what we can with our general 2D fighting game knowledge, let's look at the game's general system details on the wiki and see what we can learn about our character. Special moves have a cooldown system. If you perform a special normally using its joystick commands, it has a short cooldown of 20 frames. This means that for the most part, you can use it rapidly like any other fighting game special, However, the EX versions of specials have a lengthy cooldown instead of a super meter cost. This means that after doing an EX special, you can't even use the regular version of that special for 8 seconds, which is a long time in a fighting game. Depending on how limiting it may be, you may want to avoid using a specific EX special in order to avoid being stuck without the regular version. On the flip side, once the opponent used an EX, you can capitalize on it for the next 8 seconds. Using the dedicated special button also produces extra cooldown, or in the case of supers, a worse effect. In order to make the shortcuts worthwhile, we should only use them when the benefit is worth the cost. For example, being able to perform an invincible move on reaction because you cut down the time it takes to do the motion. This can turn a losing situation into a winning one. Some characters have charge moves, and being able to pull them off without the charge can be a lifesaver. In short, treat the shortcut versions as their own alternative EX specials with their own uses. While throws and universal overheads seem tame for a main mix-up tool, they have some extra benefits in this game. A late throw tech leads to some damage and frame advantage. The universal overhead may not do a lot of damage on its own, but it keeps frame advantage on normal hit. It evades lows and throws to score a counter hit and a guaranteed combo. This makes mixing between universal overhead and throws better than just relying on one of them, with the exception of specific characters that have different universal overheads. The aerial counter hit state leads to a big increase in untechable time. This leads to counter hit specific anti-air combos and adds to the decision making you have to make when you anti-air. Do you go for a shorter route that will always work, or for a longer route that will only work if the opponent tried to attack on the way down? The block button covers both sides, so don't forget to use it to prevent left-right mix-ups. Lastly, let's talk about how the developers decided to add more nuance to the neutral phase of the game. First, they gave moves extended hurt boxes, both during startup and recovery. This means that you can counter moves by either counter poking them before they come out, or by whiff punishing them after they whiff. In both cases, you can safely buffer a normal canceled into a special or a super without worrying about hit confirming. If it connects, the follow-up will come out, and if it doesn't, the follow-up will not. The other way the developers added nuance is by utilizing a system of evasion, taken straight out of Guilty Gear's ground versus ground phase. The dodge and crossover mechanics seem identical to roll and evade from the KOF games, but they work a bit differently. Dodge evades everything but throws until the very end where it's vulnerable, but it leaves you stuck in place. Crossover evades in a similar manner while also letting you gain ground and reposition for a punish, but it's only invincible to moves from the knee up. Some other moves offer similar low-profile evasion while attacking at the same time, and as mentioned before, the universal overheads jump over low moves. What this means is that your ideal poke in terms of range and speed will lose to evasion, which in turn forces you to use alternative moves and opens a window for the opponent to capitalize on their unique weaknesses. And that's how the conversation between player choices starts. After understanding the game as a whole a bit better, you can now look at your character's tools and decide where and how to use each. Hopefully this has been a helpful way for you to learn a new fighting game character. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.
何が出るかな